Happy New Year's, everyone. I'm so excited to launch season 2 of Suits and Shoes. And what better way to do it than with a close friend?
What I know is possible and be the multiple generations that I wasn't given.
At what point did you realize that you need that education past 8th grade in order to keep growing your business?
Some of them use something that they want better and they just walk into exactly what they don't want. So that's, to me,
where she says, when God closes one door of opportunity, another one opens. But what do we do too often? Happy New Year's, everyone. I'm so excited to launch season 2 of Suits and Shoes. And what better way to do it than with a close friend? Business, I wouldn't say partner, but pretty close to partner. I feel like some days, great. And I just want to tell you that this year is going to be great. We're past our elections. It seems like inflation, interest rates are getting under control. And you need to understand that in order to succeed, you have to have this foundation. You have to be ready for it. May this season bring that readiness, that being prepared for you and embracing this year and the many blessings that it has in store for you. And so, episode 1 of season 2, Suits and Shoes. Craig Holster is a founder, CEO, or partner within Time Movement Company. Craig comes from a very unique background that I'll let him share, and has successfully built his company into the 1% of companies here in the United States. And that's a really big accomplishment for someone who's 27 years old. And so, Craig, what is it like to be Craig?
It's actually very exciting. So first of all, I want to thank you for having me here. It's definitely an honor and to open up the season. So I'm very honored. What's it like to be Craig? It's actually very exciting because my background, I came from Arkansas, where I grew up, I tell people basically Amish. I grew up in a religious culture where we worked really hard, and that's what we were taught. So being able to go from a farmer boy, we had tons of cattle, we had chicken houses, and my dad owned a construction company, to where I am today, it's actually very exciting.
Wow, that's extraordinary. So let's start with early childhood and the impacts it had on the individual you are today. So you grew up in an Amish-like culture.
Mm-hmm.
What role did that play in the leader that you are today?
It has a ton. Work ethic is something that in my generation, a lot of people, I love the school system for if it's something that you are intentional about, like a doctor, but just going to school because I don't know what I want to do yet.
Yeah.
Something that I always learned is I have an 8th grade education. So going straight from 8th grade to the construction site taught me tons of work ethic. So being able to just get up at 5 a.m, even when I was going to school, take care of the chicken houses, come home, take care of more animals. During the summer, working, my first job was for my dad, 50 cents per hour. And I was able to buy a cow from that and learn investing. So just starting small and just putting the work, even if you don't want to.
Yes, I agree. I grew up in a very conservative family as well. And I truly believe that good work ethic is more important than an education to an extent, but they really go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I've met some of the brightest and smartest people in my life, MBA, doctorates, but zero work ethic and zero success. And then I've met college dropouts. I've met Adam out of New York, former felon, minimal to no schooling, and he has that billionaire status. And so I think work ethic and education go hand in hand. At what point did you realize that you need that education past 8th grade in order to keep growing your business?
That's actually funny. So all the way from when I was a kid, I knew that education was important, but I struggled very much with saying at school did not get along. It was more the teaching style.
Yeah.
I learned later, but to answer your question, when I learned was actually very recent. It's like a year and a half ago. I went through some business challenges that taught me that it's more than just putting in the work. You actually do have to know what you're doing, and you have to know how to communicate with the rest of the world. So it's actually very recent, about I would say a year ago.
Wow, it marvels me that you were able to, like, an 8th grade education, build a multi-million-dollar business. That's a huge accomplishment. I think so many people, they are so hesitant to just start. And whenever I reflect back at me starting my business, and I think having a business degree, gave me like the booster jetpack to a rocket. But at the same time, if I was to pinpoint my success to one thing, it'd be the hard work ethic that my parents taught me. I remember from a young age, even in the fifth grade, going with my mom, cleaning residential properties, my dad making us help him in the garden, and so many other things that played a major role in the work ethic that I have now. Whenever I look back at my week and I'm like, oh, wow, I just clocked 120 hours this week.
Yeah.
And it's like, I could probably do another couple of hours. It's normal. Versus if you look at our generation and even the generations after us that struggle to put in an 8-hour work week. I hear there's conversations of bringing it down to a 6-hour work week and raising minimum wage. Like, it makes no sense. Starting a business, I mean, education, coming out from an almost like community. How did you start?
Well, it started actually when I was back in the community. So when I would say probably my fifth grade, I always do. So my dad was a businessman, and he would go to town every single day. I would be on his coattail every single place I went. We went to the hardware store, and just in his construction dealings. So my dad is a great business person, and he ran a farm and a construction business. So for me, it started way back when I was young. I wanted to be like my dad. That's where it started. And he was part of a company where we could sell some cleaners. So my first entrepreneur activity was I convinced my younger brother, he's now my business partner, to hop on a bike with me and bike down a mile of gravel roads to our neighbors and sell them. I sell them the cleaners.
Wow. How old were you?
I was probably 12, something like that. And I'm now convinced at this point. My pitch, I practiced it. I got it ready. I got up there. I was shaky in the pitch. And I guarantee it was a sympathy purchase. They purchased it because I went back a month later because I was like, hey, they have to be out of it. And they still had it. So I know they just made the purchase there, but I would start with every piece of paper I could grab, every piece of sales information that I needed. It all started because I just knew there was more. There was more. I loved farming. I loved animals, but there's more. And this business conversation, always owning a business and that dream I would credit it to my dad in just showing me what's possible in the business world. So that just started within the community.
That's extraordinary that your knowledge that your dad was a major player in your success. I'm sure you've heard me talk about it all the time. My last episode of season 1 was with my dad.
Yeah.
He too played a major role. And even me starting my business, I really didn't want to start a business. I remember after college, I was probably year 2 working at Menards. I accelerated through the manager trainee program, and then I went and worked for another company and did very well there. And my dad just kept saying, "Oh, you're called for greater. You got to do more. You got to start your own business." And I think the reason I waited so long was I lacked that mentorship in my life to innovate or diving into stuff business. Do you feel like was the final turning point where like, all right, it's time to start my own business?
Yeah, that some things in my life were like to just gradually happen, but some things are like very stark moments, and this was one of them. My brother, who now is my business partner, same guy who was going down the gravel roads with me, was actually my boss in an organization. So I knew I was going to do sales. So I worked up the ranks in different companies and got to a sales position, selling storage units, like portable buildings. And he was actually my boss at the time. And I just had my first little girl, and I would just continue talking to him about there's got to be more. There's got to be more. I've been doing sales for 3 years. And he's actually the reason I quit, which he was my boss at the moment. He asked me one question. He asked me, are you going to allow Genesis, my daughter, to look at you and say, Dad always said something, but never did. It was always someday.
Yeah.
Because my dad went through '08 and unfortunately went bankrupt. My grandfather, he became a deacon in the church, and his business ventures crashed off. So there was multiple generations of either losing it or not going all the way. And he just looked me in my eyes and asked, are you going to do that to Genesis? And I literally 1 hour later quit my job.
Wow.
So I gave my boss, I told him, Don, I told him I'm going to quit in 4 weeks. And that was the moment that I said, that's it. It's crazy because what I chose to do there was a multi-level marketing company where I was working part-time for 2 years, and I had made a total of $12. And I was convinced that I'm going to quit my sales job that I was successful at, go do a job I made $12 in 2 years, and go be successful, just because I felt that burn so deeply.
Yeah.
But then things happened that 2 weeks later, I turned 90 degrees and went straight into a different venture. But without that multi-level marketing opportunity, I would never have went towards something. So that was the moment.
That's really unique that you highlight that failure was almost like a step in the process.
Mm-hmm.
I remember whenever I started my first business, I wouldn't call it a great success either.
Yes.
And it felt like year 1, year 2, year 3, and I don't see that success that I want. And then one day it all changed. I remember reading a Jeff Bezos quote where he says, you can grind for 3-4 years with no results. And then in a moment's notice, you could have the most success you've ever experienced your entire life. Failure is just, I think, a step in the process. Too many people get discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking with a close friend of mine in regards to what do you do when failure comes into your life? Many people get discouraged, they quit, but it's just been inscribed in me that for every failure, for every problem, there's 3 solutions.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of the Helen Keller quote where she says, when God closes one door of opportunity, another one opens. But what do we do too often? We look at that door that was closed.
Yep.
I want to talk about that door that was closed in your life. What are a few failures that you experienced that were kind of a stepping stone or a step in your process or journey of becoming successful today?
Of course. So I always believed growing up, everybody told me that it's not if, it's when you're going to have a failure or lose. And I was like, I'm going to learn everything I can to make sure that's not me. But turns out it was me. It's the same statistic. So I was going to quit in 1 month to go do the multi-level marketing job that I had planned. But 2 weeks before, one of my mentors at the moment, he's actually the one that's going to work with, called me and said, it was a divine interventions is what he called it. This is going to shape the rest of your life. And we turned, and it was a crypto project that he had found. And I trusted him with it. And I said, let's go build it. We were able to come in at the ground level.
Wow.
And we were able to the opportunity that I saw, I just felt in my gut. And I turned and did that. And it was actually my first year. Instead of going down the path of making $12, I switched and I was able to build a team of $5 million in 1 year.
Wow.
So that was my first success, right? But often with success coming that fast, I was too young. I was excited. Everything's going to be great, right? But it was crypto, and crypto doesn't always, if you don't play it correctly, it will burn you fast.
Yeah.
So my first very real opportunity was the crypto industry. And on top of that, I had three different projects and investments that I was monitoring because I was diversifying. Interest rates are going to go up. Just everybody was saying, get your cash out, because it's going to be worth it. So I got it all out. And within 1 month, all 3 of them stopped paying.
Oh, wow.
On one time. So I went from doing well.
Yeah.
All 3 of them stopped paying. And then later found out that the CFO that I was working with, or the financial advisor I was working with, completely separate from the crypto, also wasn't honest, wasn't above board. So there was a lot happening at once.
So you go from almost like community.
Yep.
You taste success, and then you're back to failure. Walk me through that moment. What did you feel in that moment?
See, that's one of the moments where it's not a moment. It's something that dawns on you slowly and over time, to where you realize the reality. Mm-hmm. I went through the initial denial first. Like, no, it's not that bad. It's not going to be like that. I'm just going to bounce back. Like, I bounced out of it in a year, built $5 million on a team. I'll bounce back. But when it slowly dawned on me, it was a very hard time. It was one of those times where you go to work, you come home, you're excited about life, but you have to take a moment, take the breath outside the door, and try to be a strong person for your family. But it's just, no matter what you try, it's not there. And it was more like months for me than just moments.
So, how did you know that it was time to, move on, that door was closed and you had to go pursue and build the roofing company you built now?
Um, so it happened simultaneously. So with the signs of the crypto disappearing, all my different investments were leaving. I got together with my business partners, like what's working? Like this is not working. What's going to work? And going back to what we knew, this opportunity came up with Tightroofing to acquire. We, within about a week's time, we got all the facts together and said, that's it. We're going to sell out in Texas and we're going to move to Missouri. And 2 weeks later, I had my family in the car and my belongings. I was headed to Missouri.
Life of an entrepreneur.
Yes, pretty much. It's in waves.
Yeah.
It's ups and downs.
Yeah. Whenever you assess that, hey, this isn't working, this is working, how hard was it to let go of those projects that weren't working and pursue something that was working? I mean, that's not even as exciting, in my opinion. I think roofing is nowhere near as exciting as crypto. What helped you make that decision today? Crypto's got to go. I got to pursue something more realistic.
Well, the first part of the question is I didn't let go of the projects right away. Even with moving, even with making the right choice, what helped me make that move was, again, my family. I'm very much a family man. So the entrepreneur world, I know the toll that it takes on a family. So I want to make sure my family's okay. So that's what helped make the move. It's like I looked at the numbers, I looked at everything. This will protect my family. But then I tried to take the projects with me. And it was again, just the months of letting go of the projects. But I remember a moment where I stepped up in my office. I went over to my partner and I said, again, I'm not holding on anymore. Like I have to take this as a loss. I have to let my ego go and say, I've lost it. And once I did that, things started to come together. My CFO problem started being fixed. My mentors walked into my life that I didn't have before, and it just slowly started coming together once I let go. So I tried holding on to it for months, even though I made the move that was right.
Yeah. That's so interesting that you highlight that. I feel like that right there is the best life advice I've ever received in my life. Is just to let go of those things having a negative impact on your life. Let go of those things that are bringing you down, regardless of how well they are. I've even seen it, not even in business, I've seen it in family. When you let a friend go, a relative that's having a negative impact on you, maybe it's a church or a religion that's having a negative impact on you. It helps. I mean, just look at drinking soda. Like imagine if you just let go of drinking soda and take drinking water. In our lives, there's a lot of things that play an impact on our success. What do you think it was in your life? Like what played the biggest role to success in your life?
It's just never stopping. For me, it sounds cliche, but it really means a lot to me to never stop. If your resources are low, it doesn't matter if as long as you can get the ship in the right direction, you can steer a moving ship. You can't steer an anchored ship. So what kept me going is no matter how dark the moment is, it's okay to give. I gave up hundreds of times. Sometimes I give up on a daily basis, but I keep telling myself and my wife, I'm going to give up tonight, but guess what's going to happen? Tomorrow morning, the alarm's going to go. I'm going to get up. I'm going to keep going. So
That's amazing.
just, I don't think it can stop.
Regardless of the situation.
Yes. I don't think I'm able to stop.
Yeah.
I just don't have any.
That's so powerful. I 100% relate and agree. Whenever I'm asked, Paul, what's the biggest driver to your success? And it's, I think in part, never giving up. There's this TED talk where it talks about how it is the sole deciding factor of successful and unsuccessful is that they have that grit to never stop. In business school, we studied 12 competencies of a successful leader or entrepreneur. Grit was at the top. And so what does grit look like in your life in those low moments? Because we have bad years and you have those nights where it's like, all right, I'm done. But what, in addition to that alarm clock, helps you to keep pushing through the challenges that you have running a business?
I believe there's two things that will pull you forward. Either the dream of tomorrow or the fear of yesterday, the trauma of yesterday. For me, it's the dream of tomorrow. I'm always a dreamer. I've always been the guy who's been looking at the skies, literally and figuratively. But it's the dream of what I know is possible and what I can give to my future family, even employees. It goes deeper than just me and my family. I want the generational wealth. I truly believe it's possible. And
Wow.
that's what pulls me.
That's so powerful. I think something to highlight in all of this is uh, it's got to be more than just the fear of failure.
Mhm.
It's got to be something greater, deeper, more meaningful.
It's good to get you started, but I've seen too many times where the fear of failure or even the anger of somebody who fired you, so you went and started your own company, that will take you so far. But when you really want to take generational wealth, you can't take that bitterness with you.
Yeah,
So there's a point that it has to switch to tomorrow.
100%. I agree. I remember one of my mentors in my life would often say, you have to have a vision
Mhm.
and a purpose
Mhm.
greater than the pain that you have to endure to get that success.
Yeah.
The pain that we endure every day. I think if you were to put it like on a scale of 1 to 10, you go to the doctor like, hey, what's your pain level like? Or
Mhm.
what kind of pain you experience from 1 to 10? In business, I think on a hard day, it's the 9 to 10.
Yeah.
Like it's up there.
Yep.
I remember I had one time a really successful employee within our company. And she spent a day just shadowing me. And then she's like, Paul, I worked for some, pretty successful individuals, nowhere near as successful as you, but
Mhm.
man, the level of stress that you handle is unreal. Like how do you mitigate that stress? How do you manage that stress? And so to circle back to that purpose and that meaning in life, uh, for you, it's generational wealth, but what about generational wealth makes it such a beacon of hope for you to keep pursuing, pushing through those high levels of stress and pain that you endure as an entrepreneur?
I've never been asked that question. It's a very, if I'm understanding your question properly, for me, it goes back to what I know is possible and be the multiple generations that I wasn't given, that I'm a strong believer, but that I believe that the religious culture that I was part of robbed.
Mm.
Restoring that, I'm very much, I even had a conversation with my dad. I was like, I love you 100%. You can go be a multimillionaire, but I'm officially saying I've got it from here. And saying that if you look at our tree, my mom does a lot of generational, she does the looking at our lineage.
Yeah,
She goes
yeah.
all the way back.
Yeah.
But if you look at all that, there used to be tons of wealth there. But if you see the pattern of where it was taken away, I want the tree to say, Craig Hostetler, restored that.
What do you feel like, and you may not have the answers, what do you feel like took away that wealth?
I don't have a full answer. I believe that a lot of it had to do with just the fear of man, fear of others. Then it turned into religion, taking that away from each individual. It didn't leave in one generation, but it just kind of walked there to where we've convinced ourselves that it's okay to have less.
Yeah.
And I believe we're made for all the riches, everything. We're supposed to, as God's people, we're supposed to control it. We're supposed to have the say of the money and the economy, right? Because we're the ones that can do good about it.
Yeah.
So
I'm so glad you brought that up. I actually, we're from a Slavic background.
Yeah.
And so in our background, 3-4 generations back was the Soviet Union. And so my great grandfather was persecuted, spent 16 years in a communist held prison for his faith and his belief. And then somewhere along the way, like my grandfather got a pretty good job, but then was always kind of persecuted for his faith. And then my dad started a business and it just started taking off. And then the corruption there took away that success. In addition to that, not in large part, but to a certain level, there's this Slavic mindset of being negatively impacted by the communist views of very selfish and very self-centered and not helping each other. And then we moved here to the United States. I'm like, wow, this is like the promised land. Like there's so many opportunities, so many successful individuals willing to help you and guide you to success. But that negative impact of the Soviet Union on an entire 3, 4, 5, maybe even 6 generations has hindered that success. Really. Then I start studying the United States here. And I feel like the effect that the Soviet Union had on us Slavic people is a similar effect the coal mine era had on Americans here. Yeah, because you work hard 6 days a week. You don't further your education. The wife is a stay-at-home mom. She doesn't self-develop. She doesn't educate. So then you have an uneducated father, an uneducated mother, and now you have uneducated kids. And I think it's so important to further self-develop yourself. And I think in the last at least 2 generations here in the US, since I've seen probably from 08, 09, that's probably where the big spike came in high net worth families, is the power of the internet has brought so much education to the average individual that if you look in the history of the United States, the average value for net worth has never been as high as it is right now. And so what do you attribute or what do you attain to that? From my family, my success, I've noticed that now that we have this higher education, now that we have access to individuals that have done it, we are essentially a byproduct of the people we surround ourselves with. And so seeing your family roots being changed and you're almost like an entire shift in bloodline, I see it in my family, even amongst myself and even my siblings who have now, have those houses and have those shops and have those cars and have those vacations. It's a big change. What other attributes do you think are playing effect in breaking out of this kind of coal mine industrial area of the Soviet area and different, cultures or different societies had different negative impacts on why that wealth was either lost or not been increased or grown? What other things do you think play a key role in a family that's trying to grow their network and create that multi-generational wealth?
Yeah. So my parents, we left the religious culture. We left it all together. So I'm very blessed in that I have my parents. I have an older brother, a younger brother, and then we have three unmarried younger brother, one brother, two sisters at home. So for us, it was my younger brother left first, and I did. We all left within about a month. So that unit leaving was a big factor because a lot of times I see somebody leave something that they want better, and they just walk into exactly what they don't want. So that's, to me, having a support system is very critical. And then take that into business. I spent in 1 year, 100 grand, or over 100 grand, just mentors and people helping me because I have 8th grade education, but I'm getting my bachelor's in life and in entrepreneurship. And I'm very much a networking type of guy. I truly believe it's important to go to people. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. Go learn from the people that are doing it and bring that into your life. So having key mentors in your life to where you can call at any point or have a problem or go learn from conferences. There was a year that I just basically did every conference I could. If there's a conference, I'll buy it. Let's go. And that was critical of opening my mind to what's possible because no matter how much I dreamed, there's this thing about learning how to read a P&L, learning what even a cash flow statement is, learning that language was like, I'm still learning. It's like I'm right in the middle of that. And your ego can be in the way. You can try to do it yourself or you can surround yourself with people who know because they're willing to help.
Yeah. But isn't it like painful? I remember when I left, I would say in large part, the Slavic community.
Mm-hmm.
I replaced all my friends.
Mm-hmm.
I replaced the church I was attending. I replaced the mentors I had in my life. And I lost a lot of really good friends and individuals that I grew up with.
Yeah.
But that was so pivotal in who I am today as an individual. And I noticed the moment that I broke away from all of that, and it was painful. Like it was like tears running down your eyes, painful. Like you can't fall asleep at night thinking, what did I just do? Your gut is like a Ferris wheel in your stomach and you lost your appetite and you can't eat. And it's like, man. And in addition to that, those people that you thought were friends and family and church are telling you you're crazy and you've lost your mind and you're deceived and you're going to lose it all and you're going to end up alone. And you take that step of faith and you build a new circle. And the impact it had on my life, I mean, in the words of some of my mentors in my life, was like, oh, you've jumped 2-3 generations of success. You've really leveled up. And so enduring all that pain has definitely paid its dividends. But in your life, how do you feel like helped you make that? Because it was probably pretty painful, was it not?
It was. So it was multiple different moves, multiple different moments. But for me, my childhood best friend, I never like we're still friends and friendly, but it was never a moment of we're no longer friends. It was one day we're laughing and running and screaming. The next day there was a major church split, and your parents are on different sides, so it's not awkward. So I lost tons of friends. I lost tons of relationships, and then we went to a different location, went through it there as well. And each time, but when I made the decision myself, my wife and I went back and forth a couple times. It's very pivotal, and it's actually necessary, I believe. But that pain is just something that you have to believe integrated tomorrow, or it's not going to be worth it, because God cannot replace something good in your life or even great for something that He has in store for you, because what He has planned is much better that you don't even see. So it's I like to call it blind faith of trusting. If you have the trust that it will be better in some way, shape, or form, it helps. Some people say it's delusion. I'm okay with that.
Delusional. Oh,
Yeah.
I've been called that one too many times.
Yes.
It used to upset me, and now it inspires me because I remember someone, multi-billionaire in my life, said, if you're not believing in something that doesn't exist to the extent where someone's calling you delusional,
Yeah.
you're not believing in it enough.
We all like those cliche statements, but when people call you delusional,
It's different. I really like how you highlighted, you got to leave the environment you're in. That includes and not limited to church, culture, religion, community, friends, and even family.
Yeah.
You got to leave and move that if you want to truly reach something that they don't have as a whole.
Yeah.
That being, we're talking about generational wealth right now. I think generational wealth isn't just financial. I think it's health, faith, and our family, and so, or that including friends. And so those 4 pillars of wealth, being able to give that to the next generation. I really like how you highlight that in order to have that, you need to move somewhere better or good. I think too many times, I don't know how much it is in your foreigner communities, but our Slavic community, I've seen so many young people for 18 years of their lives, 20 years of their lives, 30 years of their lives, so unhappy, stuck in this, almost like, I don't even know how to word it without offending anyone. Stuck, just stuck, right? Just stuck. And then they get to a breaking point, and what do? They go and they waste their lives. Some turn to alcohol and partying. Some they just deteriorate. And so it's not even preserving what they have. Like, they go into a worse pit than they were. And so why not just leave? Why not just break those barriers? Why not just pursue that, what you feel God calling you to?
That's something my justice meter goes off a lot, because the deteriorating part of it is probably one of my biggest fears. Is coming. I had a mentor of mine explain it to the spiritual world. It's everybody has a version of it, and everybody believes everything, but man has to find a way to make it make sense. And this mentor of mine explained it this way: you have 2 crates. There's 2 people of you. One was sent to earth, and one is still in heaven in this scenario, and he is the perfect version of you. He's the best version of you. And I'm chasing that man every day of my life. If I get to that point and I get to meet the man and I don't recognize him, that is going to be a problem. Like, there's so much that is even beyond what I believe now that I can be. And if I don't follow that, it's deteriorating. And then it's the thought process of what am I doing? Like, you're living for the weekend. You're living for the Christmas vacation. You're living for just the things that at the end of the day it's going to leave, and you're going to go back to just the deteriorating point of your life. And that scares me. And I hate to see my friends in it, or the people in my life that are there. But I've come to a point where if I just let it go and love them there, I'm doing better for them than I'm just trying to pull them out.
Yeah. What advice do you have for someone, whether they're Slavic, whether they're Amish, Mennonite, coal mine industrial era, any, the Asian Chinese community, they have their industrial time era that has negative, like any culture, any walk of life. What words would you share to inspire someone to break that bloodline, to break out of that culture, to break out of that community and pursue a new lifestyle?
It starts with getting out. Like my parents, they adopted 3 children. So, and they were always the type to take us places. Like for our birthday, my dad would take us to a steakhouse. We didn't have a lot of money when I was growing up, but he would take us to a steakhouse and we would romanticize it. Like this is where we're going. This is amazing. My dad, we actually living in Arkansas, I took our whole family for 2 summers straight to St. Louis, Missouri to work. Sometimes we did a couple 24-hour shifts on a roof, like physically doing the roof so that we could all go to China together with my little brother's adoption, and just opening your eyes to what's possible without making an emotional decision. Go see what's out there.
Just explore.
Yes. Go explore
Before making a change or
Yes.
drastic decision.
if you're just going to make the emotional bang, you might be left alone. Then you're going to make decisions that you wouldn't, that's going to take have. Go find people who have what you want and go shake their hand. There's so much. I just met a guy at the coffee shop last week where I'm going to go to coffee with him because I shook his hand.
Wow.
And I'm excited to get to know it. Some of my craziest relationships started with just walking up to a person. And it's actually, I met you because I shook somebody's hand in Florida.
Wow.
Just shaking hand and explore, ask questions, and God showed.
Wow. I couldn't have worded better myself. Start exploring. I like that. So instead of making a drastic move and an entire shift in your walk of life, just go explore.
Mhm.
Go explore and meet someone new. Go
And then when
visit
it's
a
time to
church.
take the step because you can get lost in exploring. You can explore forever.
Yeah.
But there's times where, even in my life, like moving up here, 2 weeks earlier, I wasn't planning on moving.
Yeah.
2 weeks later, I moved because it became obvious. Because when you go explore, be careful because once you see it, don't stay there because that's where you start deteriorating.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make the moves that you know you need to.
Yeah. Very well said. I want to talk a little bit about struggles of a business owner. I remember the first lawsuit I was handed. I looked at it, and this was years ago, that like really stressed me out. Like probably more stress and pressure than I was kind of breaking out of the community that I was a part of prior to starting my business. And I'm looking at this, and like my shoulders are tense, and I'm like emotional, and I'm like, this is. I mean, it was a 9-figure lawsuit. It wasn't like a hey, you said something mean on the internet. Not that I would ever say anything mean on the internet. And I had a really amazing employee at that time, and he's still with us, just a lot of positions higher. And I gave it to him, and he looked at it, skimmed it, and he's like, oh, this is nothing. I'll take care of this. And he went, he took care of it, the attorneys, everything. And they ended up settling, and we parted ways, mutually beneficial.
Mhm.
And he put in the picture frame, and he gave it to me. He's like, Paul, we haven't even been shot at yet. And I'm like, whoa, what do you mean? He's like, well, I'm from the military and I served multiple tours overseas. And there's a difference in a war zone where you're being shot at and this.
Mhm.
And so I took this picture frame, I put it in my office. So anytime I have any problem, any struggle, I look at it, I remember his words, wow, I haven't even been shot at. It's all nice and everything,
Mhm.
but I still go through that pressure. I still go through that stress. What are some things in your life that a typical entrepreneur should be aware of if starting your own business and being a business owner that they may not know?
Yeah, I'll go with the piece of advice I was given that I thought I was following is make sure that if you're taking care of different branches of your business, you always want to go to the flashy stuff. You want to go with the truck reps. You want to go with the sales team. You want to go with the sales manager. Make sure that your social media team is right. And that's all good. But for me, it's make sure your money's right because the IRS needs their piece. Once it gets into the entrepreneur business world, banks, IRS, they don't care about who you are, your family. They don't care about what you know. They care about, are your documents in order and are you in order? And that's something that I was never taught, that I was told, that I actually went back to my partner and said, okay, we're going to do this, right? And I ended up getting screwed over. But today I learned so much more.
Wow.
To know that the boring stuff is also important.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to carry that weight for like a lawsuit or a customer. And sometimes your sales team, you have to walk in the sales team or walk in the production meeting and say, like, we're going, and just knowing that you have that lawsuit on your hands and that it will be okay. Sometimes the team needs you to carry that weight. So being able to carry that weight and just making sure that the boring stuff behind your back is taken care of, because if not, it will be a monster that you created that will come around and you have to deal with it anyway.
Yeah.
Guarantee.
Oh, I want to dive deep into your and my journey to 1 million and then to 10 million. And so I'm going to share my biggest struggle to 1 million, and then you'll get a chance to share your biggest struggle and how you accomplished it. So to 1 million, my biggest struggle was people. I just could not get past, I call it the contractor dilemma. Why would I pay someone more than myself to do something that I can do, and I go do it myself and the business doesn't grow? I don't know if there's a good answer to how to overcome that other than just overcoming. Like I don't think there's a trade secret. I don't think you just got to overcome it. And for me, what helped me overcome it is hiring, my brother Peter and paying him more than what I was making them at that moment, and seeing like, wow, this money's going to him, his family. It's having a positive impact on his life. I'm actually doing good. And I'm like, wow, I can do it to a lot of people. And it was just like a pivotal moment in my life, and it just clicked for me. And now I went and hired my first hire, my second, my third, and now, almost 100 employees around the world, from London to the Philippines and all across the US. And it's like, that's how I overcame my journey to 1 million, being able to use people, because you and I know very well, and everyone else probably does too, that without the people, you don't really have anything. What was your biggest barrier to 1 million to have you?
To me, the 1 million was in crypto. So I sold my house. Through that whole process of quitting, I sold my house. I had like $8,000. I think I had 18 grand in profit. And it was on a first time home buyer loan. I owned it for long enough, no taxes. So I had a little spending money. And for me, I remember the panic that I had of sitting down at my computer. I just had quit my job. I set up my 2 little screens and I'm ready to make phone calls. I could do sales, but now I don't have any people. And it hit me. And a lot of it, the getting over it, was me laying on the ground with my eyes closed, hands on my eyes, and just absolute panicking that I'll never make it. I have a deadline. But the way I got up is I just scrolled through my contacts and made phone calls. I got laughed at so many times.
Wow.
It's just, you have to go through. Another one of my mentors says, there's gold. Where's the gold? It's in the dirt. So my version of just doing it was just calling and just being okay with being laughed at.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Rejection.
Yeah. But then when that first one hit and I got my first payday, it's something to do with that first check. Salesmen, their first commission check. Business owners, my first paycheck was 80 cents. I texted my family group and said, I made it. I'm rich.
Wow.
80 cents.
80 cents.
It was my first money that I made, that I worked for outside of a W-2 position. And it changed my life. But then the people piece, I just took it to the teeth.
Yeah, that's so powerful. The journey to 10 million. There's so many books and podcasts, and I've even noticed people that have never even made it to 10 million giving advice on 10 million.
Yes.
And while I agree with some or a lot of their advice, it's good advice, I don't think it's key to becoming, a company at 10 million revenue. And so for me, reflecting upon it, yes, systems and procedures was important. Yes, the right people were important. Yes, it was good to have a good brand and good marketing, but none of those factors was a deciding factor of getting to 10 million revenue. And I could have gotten to 10 million revenue without the marketing, the brand. I could have gone to 10 million without the let's say, with different people, right? Even me, I tell my team all the time, you can replace me as the CEO and you'll probably be, just as successful, if not more successful. If you go hire, someone from a major competitor who's been doing it for 30 years and I've only been doing it for 10, look at Starbucks and Chipotle. I think the major deciding factor of going from 1 million to 10 million is market fit. You have to know what the end user wants. I remember focusing as a first-time entrepreneur so much on the product. And I built my first van, and it was like white cabinetry, a glass door, and I thought, wow, This is a luxury condo. Everyone's going to love it. And then people did love it. I did, sell a couple $1 million, or $4.5 million to be exact.
Yeah.
But then I hit a ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
And the best investment I made was an individual out of Washington. And he helped me design a completely different van conversion. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, it makes no sense to me. Like, it's so different. It's so radical. No one out there has anything. And he's like, Paulo, trust me, this is what the market wants. We took it to market, 100x everything.
Wow.
100x everything. And I was like, wow. And now we built a new factory, building another factory, and having this ultimate success, and reflecting on my journey to 10 million and now on to 100+ million market fitment. If you can create a product or a service that fits the market needs, because in our space, I thought the key factor was quality. And I've learned, no, it's quality service.
Mm-hmm.
And I can have an average product and provide an exceptional service and succeed. I don't need to go reinvent the wheel. I just have to reinvent how to service the people using the wheel.
How to package it.
Yeah, how to package it.
We're going through that at the moment, to where we're wanting to go to that next level, and having a manufacturer, we're service based, so roofing, and everybody and anybody can go put on a roof. And we've tried different packages that fail. We've found some that this is going to be it, and this is, everybody's going to want it, but it turns out that's what I wanted. That's not what the market wanted. So being honest and okay with saying it's not working sometimes hurts, but the faster you can get there, the better it is. And it's crazy what changes from the million to the 10 million conversation, because one of my mentors told me that what took you there, if you try to go to 100 million with what took you to 10, is actually going to be the downfall of your company. Wow. And that's a whole different angle on it. And it's taken me some time to think through that, but I'm finding it very true.
Yeah. What do you think was the key, or maybe there's multiple components and variables that helped you go from 1 to 10 million?
The hustle takes you to 5 million. And our company doubled every year from the first year, and then second year, 2 and 3, it doubled. And then what we found is we're finishing up our 3rd year right now, going into our 4th. And you can only double so many times until you have to build your foundation. So we had to find a way to build our systems and processes. And the key point to me is build your people. They have to have fulfillment. They have to be succeeding as well. They have to be becoming better people than they were when they got there, or because there's something out there that's going to grab their attention as well. But if you help them get what they want and they need, we're all succeeding together. So building your people from 1 to 10 is, you have to lead from the front and change, and a lot, but then building your people is what I would say is in the first.
Yeah, well said. At every opportunity that I get to speak at a business conference or visiting a company to give an inspirational talk, I always give the example of business, or building a business like football. And so if you want to have a $50 million company or a $100 million company, and then it's similar to playing a football game. So let's say it's Titans versus 27 North, your team versus my team. We have 30 days to get ready for the ultimate game day. Winner walks away with $100 million. And I'll ask the team or the crowd that I'm speaking to, what's your next steps? Believe it or not, 100% of people always say, we'll train. It's like, how are you going to train in 30 days to become the ultimate $100 million team or company? No, you have to go recruit. And I say, on game day in 30 days, I'm going to be in the box suit. Like, the first thing I'm going to do, depending on who you call and what you do. So let's say if you train, I'm going to call the university I graduated from, Mizzou, D1 college. I'm going to call up the coach there. I'm going to say, hey, coach, here's $50 million. I need you and your team to come and play on so-and-so day on behalf of 27 North against Titan with it. And so I don't want to neglect self-development and mentorship, but you have to be practical.
Yeah.
If your team is underqualified, be realistic. How long does it take to self-develop someone from, let's say, the 4th grade level to a MBA college grad? Decades. I mean, you can't just overnight. Yeah, it takes years. And if you have a financial goal for 2025 to hit 100 billion, and you're on it 75 million, you can't do it on your own. You got to get consultants, mentors. You got to level up. Call that coach. Call that D1 firm or individual, even in sales. I have recently learned that in sales, you can hire sales consultants that come on 1099 and they just broker deals for you. I recently found a individual that's going to be a game changer for us at 27 North. He's going closer. So did you notice closers? Like
No.
you can hire a closer.
Closers.
Yeah. So he's coming in, he's looking at all our open deals, and he's gonna go through and he's gonna close all these deals.
Wow.
2x our revenue.
That's crazy.
I'm like, wow, how did I not know this before? Over here, we're struggling to close, and he's a professional closer.
And that's only 1099 basis.
Yeah,
That's cool.
he comes with a consultant to your firm and he closes deals for it.
Love it.
Like big deals. I'm like, this is crazy. Like for me to get to his level,
Mhm.
I don't know. I'm pretty tenacious. Like I can work hard,
Mhm.
and so I would say for me, it'd probably take me 10 years
Mhm.
to get to his level. It took him 30 years, but I think I'm still pretty
Yeah.
zealous. So I think I could get there in 10 years. My team and company don't have 10 years.
Yeah. Sure.
Our shareholders don't have 10 years. And so finding those key players to help you get to that level is so essential. What do you feel like in your business right now, as you're on your next journey to 50 or $100 million, what do you feel like are things that you're working on or about to take that will get you there?
Yeah. For us, we're wanting to move and take market share in different cities. So for example, we can focus on just where we're at. What we have been doing is it's great, like supplementing. We do a lot of insurance work, bringing the supplementing in-house and bringing that third party out of the picture, bringing our marketing in-house. We focused on that this year. Now in doing that, we have a corporate location.
Yeah.
Now we can easily go to different locations and change our service. That's one thing we're doing. The second thing that we're focusing on is changing our offer. We've been playing around with that for about a year. Our offer, we've changed things that work, we've changed things that don't work, but making an offer that is like our marketplace, like speed. I was talking to a mentor of ours in the industry down in Hawaii. You can do a roof, sell it, and it can be 4 to 6 months, and they're totally fine. Here, if I sell the roof, if I'm not on that roof in 4 weeks, they're starting to ask questions like, "Are you going to do my roof?" So speed, knowing what your market wants, and making an offer for that. So we're really focusing on our offer, like you were saying, marketing fitness. Fitness is like making sure that we have what the market wants. I believe it's going to take us to that point.
Yeah, well said. We talked about success and how success isn't just money. I know every time you and I meet up and talk, we're talking about one of 4 things: family, faith, health, or wealth, money. And so whenever you look at these 4 categories and transitioning into talking about family, I've met and have met people that are multi-billionaires, and they're willing. I think the most I've heard anyone offer at 80 years old to extend their life was $4.4 billion.
Wow.
This one particular fella, I think he's 76, 77, was willing to pay that for an extra 10 years. Doctor said he'd probably a year or 2 left. And it's so powerful to me, like, wow, it's not just about the money. And so whenever I speak at events or even with my team and friends and family, I always highlight, whenever I say you got to be successful, it's not in having billions of dollars. I truly believe you can have a $70,000 household income and be ultra successful, because success boils down into health, wealth, family, and health. But regardless of whether it's $70,000, I think that's the average household income nowadays, which is crazy to me, because it used to, just like yesterday, it felt like it was half of that.
Yeah.
Or whether you're a multi-billionaire, you have to invest a lot of time. Whether you're working an 8 till 5, or whether you're working, you and my Kyle for 100 hours plus a week. How do you find time, and what do you do to have room in your life for your health and for your family?
I love that question, because there's this whole concept of balance in life, and I don't believe in balancing work-life balance. Because my wife and I, this is something we very much focused on this year. Beginning this year, we sat down and we realized we were going down our culture route, where we're going to the thing where she's at home, I go to work. All these events I've been going to, all these mentors, I was leaving her at home, and we weren't all on the same page. I was making some moves that she wasn't agreeing with, and she didn't understand and see. So this year, we've spent a ton of time and effort bringing it together so that we are going at it together. And the way I do it is I 100% live by my calendar. I put in what's important first, and it's crazy. Have you ever seen the video where it's a jar that you put the golf balls, the marbles in the sand?
Yeah.
If you put the sand and marbles in first, which is work and money,
Yeah.
or work and health, I don't care how much you have that. If all the money and all the health, nobody to share it with, like that's nothing.
Yeah.
So put in what's important first. Put in your date nights. I just recently, or this last spring, we started dating again once a week.
Wow.
I had stopped through that losing the business because I had convinced myself that I got to go save the company, save this. But it's forget the balance and put in what's important. Make the time to do it, because if you just hustle, and don't take the time for what's very important to you, you're never going to get there.
No.
You're actually going to do less. Yeah. So for me, it's start with that, build your work around you, work 100 hours. Like it's okay. But then when you walk in the door, don't be on your phone talking about work.
Yeah.
Take a 1 sec.
I was so inspired when you visited my office the other day and you walked in with your little girl.
Yes. I'm with you.
That's so amazing.
She absolutely loved it. She still talks about that business.
That's awesome.
She loves it.
I remember I had a similar experience in my life. I visited a really successful business motivational speaker in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to this business conference by myself, VIP tickets, behind the stage, spent the entire weekend with him. And towards the end of the conference, I'm standing behind stage and he comes off stage and, the big high five and handshake and hug it out. And then he's giving me a hug and he's like looking behind me. It's so weird because I can feel him looking behind me.
Yeah.
And he comes and he looks at me. He's like, Paul, where's your wife?
Mm.
And I'm like, she's not with me. This is a business conference,
Yeah. She's at home.
She's at home. Where else would my wife be? At work, school, at home? And he's like, this is the first and last time you're coming to my conference without your wife.
Mm.
He's like, I never want to see you again without your wife. Craig, life-changing moment. This was about 1.5 years, 2 years ago.
Mm.
And so I come home, I tell my wife, like, hey, moving forward, you travel with me everywhere.
Yeah.
So now work trips, ministry trips, any kind of trips. If I'm going for the day to St. Louis, she's coming with me. And it truly had such a powerful transformation in my life. And I think too many business owners and entrepreneurs, they have that deceived or delusional mindset of, hey, I'm going to earn all this money and then I'll come back for my family. Something that really helped me understand it was one evening just having a casual conversation with my wife. And we're talking about how much God has blessed us. And we're looking at these spreadsheets and all this net worth and all this money. And it's like, wow, we've accomplished a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife looks at me and she's like, oh, even if we didn't have all of that, I still want to be with you.
That's powerful.
And I'm like, wow. So in other words,
Mm-hmm.
none of this means anything.
That's all for me and my to do.
Yeah. And we had this flashback moment where we started talking about how we were in college, that apartment with no central heat or AC, the termites and the squirrels in the attic, and the surgery that she went through where she almost lost her life. And it's like, whether it was the good times or the bad times, it's the experiences along the way with the people that matter most, your spouse, your children, those friends, the social circle that you're in. What is something that you would share that is through your life after you started business that was the most challenging moment that you'd like to share with us?
For me, it comes back to family and supporting the family, because the conversation of the full wealth, the full picture of wealth, and I call it the full life experience, of having people who love you, money to have the experiences and have the health to do it is so important. But the feeling of not being able to be so low on money to go home and tell your wife that you can't do certain things. We can't date anymore. We can't, because I thought it had to be the best, the biggest, the best. And there's even moments where I came home to my wife and I told her, I don't have money for rent. And I have an IRS bill and I don't know how big it is. And I have absolutely no connections and no money for it. And I don't know what's going to happen. And there was a couple points in our marriage that was like that. And I just went to bed and slept because there's nothing I can do about it. But those were the most challenging. I don't care if I lose something, it hurts. If I lose some romantic, if I lose a sale, but if I have to go back home to my family and my little girl doesn't understand that money doesn't grow on trees. She sees a number on a toy and that's just, but dad, our account has it, so go get it. And to tell her no, it's just, that's, because I know she's only young for so long, or we're only married and young ambitious couple with a young family so long. And to have those moments where it's not good financially is the biggest challenge for me. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, well said. As we transition into the final section of our podcast, we'll finish off with inspiration for the young generation. But I want to briefly talk about, quite physical suits and shoes, the name of the podcast, of clothing. I grew up very poor, hand-me-downs. I stood in line at the Goodwill and cross lines. And I to this day remember the location of all the places where we got hand-me-down, secondhand, used clothing. And I will never forget the day when I bought my first pair of nice high-top shoes. At the time, it was $100. Today, I looked online, they're about $350, $400. So it was a really, really expensive pair of shoes. And that feeling I had in that moment, and I was like, wow, I'm going to work really hard and do whatever it takes to have these nice and fancy clothes. Well, fast forward to today, I built my own social circle, and I've shared the requirements of being in my social circle many times. And one of them is 100 million plus, and in the next year, it's going to increase 250 million plus a year. And being around these ultra successful individuals, I noticed to them, this clothing is like little to no value. They dress so simple, they wear so simple. And it kind of caught me in between two worlds. You have one set of individuals that are successful, bougie clothing, and then another area of successful people with simple clothing. What category do you find yourself in? What kind of clothing do you wear? And then is there a meaning behind that clothing that you wear?
100%. So back to where I came from, everything is controlled in your life. Your haircut, your shoes, the color of your shoes, the shirts, the print size on your shirt, everything is controlled. So from very young, it was 100% my desire to just choose what I wear.
Yeah.
And so outside of that, this comes from my dad as well. I'm always a classic person. Like you can see me wearing black. I love to throw in some splash. I have my red shoes, bright red shoes. I love the personality piece, but I always go towards classic. And just this recent year and a half, my wife and my mom, the women in my life are very much going through with what clothes are fit you. Clothes are down to science, and have actually a mentor in my life who helped me change my clothes. Like her entire life is around fashion.
Wow.
And the moment for me was where I had bought the suit, I bought the shirt, but everything I bought was like baggy, and I just felt less, And I think it's so important that a person knows the colors, that works with their color palette, that works with their energy field of who they are. Because if you're representing, for me, I'm a believer, if you're representing God and you're a soldier in his army, your clothes are one of the most important pieces of your outfit.
Wow.
And you should be intentional about every single piece that you wear. So it's something that's very dear to my heart. I'm always the classy guy, the clean cut guy. And it's just my shoulders go back. I'm very intentional about it. Yes.
That's so
powerful. If all else fails, thank you. If all else fails, it's all black.
Yeah.
All black with a color splash of either a watch or a belt or something to splash the color.
That's so powerful. So you have to wear the clothes and the clothes can't wear you.
100%.
Wow.
The way I like to put it, if you look at somebody and their whole outfit, and if their face, the outfit is supposed to highlight their face. And if their face doesn't highlight, you need to tweak color, tweak something, because the face is the center. The eyes are in the center of the face. But if it's supposed to the first thing you see is their face.
Well,
that's how
the first time I had the train of thoughts that you just shared, I took a high level course in social psychology, and one of the chapters we studied clothing, and the professor made an example of how military members of the military, whenever they're in their outfits, there's so many places and things they can't do or partake of.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I'm like, wow, what about us, children of God?
Mm-hmm.
What about us as ambassadors of our companies? What about us as ambassadors of our family?
Mm-hmm.
What about our outfits? And that really started to shape the clothes and the outfits that I wear now. And I feel like it's an evolving thing. So yes, it does slightly change year after year. But I think that is the best answer I've ever got on this podcast. So I'm going to make a reel, and that's going to be the reel of season 2.
I love that. It's very true because my wife gets the credit for this. My daughter, she's 4 years old. I'm practical, put on your outfit for today and don't change it. But my daughter, she puts on her outfit. She gets inspired and to color. She's very creative, very much into art. To go do art, she goes and puts on a new outfit.
Yeah.
And my wife just 100% supports her in that. She'll wash her clothes how many times she needs to.
Wow.
But my daughter is so knowledgeable in colors and outfits. But if you look at the world, if you just go to Walmart, you can pick out a person who is a stand-up person who actually is doing something with their life in an instant of how they dress or even the effort that they put into it.
Yeah.
It matters tremendously to me.
I agree. It definitely is a differential factor in our lives. Well, let's wrap it up with some advice, inspiration for the next gen.
For sure.
I think we're transitioning to Gen Zs. So I don't know what
to keep track of all that. My wife knows it, but I can't keep track.
Yeah. So Gen Zs, 8.5 hours a day on social media and entertainment, don't want to physically work. And I hate to down talk so much on it because I think we're all guilty to a certain extent, but society must continue. The world must continue to spin. What words of advice do you have for this next generation and how they can continue or start building a life of generational wealth or being successful? That's health, wealth, family, and faith.
It's maybe sometimes a little bit controversial, but this generation, I feel I'm caught in between because I grew up with zero technology, no TV, no nothing, to now I have access to absolutely everything. And being patient is something that is really hard to do in this day and age because people watching this podcast, they will pick up some things or they will be like, well, I want that and I want it tomorrow. So my biggest downfall in my crypto experience was not looking at it 10 years from now. 10 years from now, my daughter's going to be 14 years old. I'm going to be 37 years old. I'm still young. If I do the foundational pieces first, a tower will not crumble as fast if the foundation is built, and use that technology to build your foundation instead of trying to jump forward and grab what somebody else has worked 10 years for. Use it instead of trying to be it. And it's very foundational of me even being caught into trying to run forward when sometimes you just need to build today.
I don't know if I could have worded that any better, Craig. Thank you so much for coming on this podcast. Thank you for inspiring, for sharing your story. Everyone listening today, if this podcast is something that has had an impact on you just listening here in this moment, please make sure you like and comment your thoughts. Also hit that subscribe button as we have a long journey ahead of us. We're going to be dropping a podcast every other week. We have over 50 podcasts scheduled and planned, individuals from all walks of life and the key factors in their life that brought them that true success. And so if you don't have that true success in your life, meaning you don't have that steady income and financial literacy, you don't have good health, you lack in your faith, you lack in your family, friends, relationships, make sure you follow along on this journey and may God continue to guide and bless you. Thank you.